Hello, we're the Johnsons. My name is Rod.
My name is Tina.
And we are missionaries here from Cornerstone. We got connected with Cornerstone when we came to Oklahoma in 2011 to work at a ministry up the road in Kansas called Cookson Hills. And we started attending church here. And then in 2017, God said it was time to go to the mission field. We shared with Pastor Allen that we were going to be leaving. He said that the church wanted to support us in our missionary efforts. We didn't even know where we were going at that point.
I did not know I'd be going to a war-torn country that encountered atrocities from the Khmer Rouge and Vietnam War. And when the opportunity came to go to the foreign mission field, Rod and I didn't bat an eye. It was yes.
With God, our answer has always been yes before we ever knew what the question was. God took us to Cambodia, and it didn't take too long being there before we became known as the mama and papa of campus. In fact, most of Cambodia, 70% of it is under the age of 30, and half of that is under the age of 15. And so as we're there learning the language and the culture and everything, all of a sudden we found God was already using us and being parental figures, and we just love on these young people and encourage them, because that's not what their culture does. It's culturally, that will ruin your children, is their thought. And so when we come in as a Christian culture, not a Western culture, but a Christian culture, and do those things, it's like giving them oxygen for their soul. We're actually in a city called Battambang, Cambodia, is where God has placed us.
For me, I really stand out because of the blonde hair. So instantly, I am told, I must be very smart, I am very beautiful, and they feel less than. Their identity, they're just like, you are so beautiful. And they don't see themselves as beautiful because they're comparing like themselves to me. But I'm just like, you are beautiful inside and out. And they're like, why do you say that to me? I go, because you're a creation that God created, and He created you for a purpose and a reason, and He has a plan for your life. And they're like, no one has ever said that to me. There's no better person to lead a Khmer to the Lord than another Khmer. And to be able to do that well, those Khmer, they need to feel loved, valued, because Cambodia suffered through the Khmer Rouge. It took place in 1974 to 79, and they pretty much came through and murdered almost 2 to 3 million of their own people. Anybody that was educated was murdered. They were killed.
It's like hell. Hell is the leader.
An absolute communism was their goal, their aim.
Many of you might have heard of a book, and then there was a movie out called The Killing Fields. And it was about the Khmer Rouge, the communists who took over the country and just basically set them 100 years back. One of our goals of our ministry there and that we work with is not only changing the nation in one generation, but taking it from being known as the killing fields to the living fields.
So you have a group of people, traumatized group of people, trying to raise the next generation. This particular generation is the generation that we really want to take the gospel to, because we firmly believe that you can turn a nation around in one generation.
One of the ministries on our campus is New Sound Cambodia. It's helping Khmer create Khmer praise music. Not just taking American praise and worship and translating it, but original Khmer. Because when the Khmer Rouge came through, not only were they killing the educated people, they also wanted to wipe out all the arts, all the music, everything, to erase history so that the only thing left was to worship the state. And so this is helping the Khmer create now their own way of worshiping God.
Another one of the places that we get to go with this particular ministry, called Community Outreach Ministry, is a very, very poor village. It's called Pum Ra. It is like the misfits or the outcasts. It's like where they live. This is where you'll find people who are substance abusers. There's mental health issues there, and there's a lot of gambling. Their homes, when I first went to this particular village, everybody's home there was like with a tarp and a piece of cardboard, and there's just like trash everywhere. And so I'm walking through that, and you could just literally feel the sense of hopelessness there. We had several children that we were able to sit down and play games with and sing songs with and tell them about the gospel. And as we would do that, some of their family they wouldn't maybe come and participate with what we're doing, but they're like standing on the outside of our group, if you will. They're listening because their parents are very much hurting in their despair. And, as they struggle with their substance abuse and their gambling, and there's also sex trafficking that goes on there as well. We have the opportunity to pray over each one of these children, and their parents allow us to do so and begin to just plant those seeds that you are a child that has worth, that has value. There is a God in heaven who has created you, and he has a plan and he has a purpose in your life. And it is such an exciting, just rewarding time when you get to see those smiles on the kids' faces and you get to get those hugs. And we get the privilege of being able, when we go to Pum Ra, we bathe each one of these children, because that might be the only bath that they get that entire week. There is a family that's just a little ways away from where these kids live that have opened up their home, that since we're helping to take care of these children, that we can use their water to help bathe these children. That's just really such a symbolism for even us as Christians. We come in dirty, and then we learn about Jesus, and we leave clean.
In America here, you have to start out with trying to convince people there is a God. There you don't have to. They believe in lots of gods. But what they want to know is whose God is most powerful. And God moves in mighty ways. We have seen miracles done there. Sight to the blind, literally. Hearing to the deaf. Lame walking. All the stuff we think, oh, well, that only happened in the New Testament. We see it, and people see that, and they say, your God is powerful. Tell me about your God. One day, early last fall, some of the ladies who go out and visit with the families and do stuff, they're like, Rod, we have a dad who didn't want to let his 17-year-old son take his grade 11 exam so he could go to grade 12 because he just wants him to work. We need an older guy to go talk to him because, like Tina said, age means everything there. Like, yeah, sure, I'll go. So this whole family has AIDS. The 17-year-old was born with AIDS. And the father is just looking at, he wants more money so the family can have a higher status. He's pushing his wife who has AIDS, his son who has AIDS, to just work. We get there and they just want to argue and insult and fight with each other. And I start talking to the father. He's about 50 years old right now, and he grew up in the Khmer Rouge. Both of his parents were killed by the communist Khmer Rouge. He was forced at 9, 10 years old to be a child soldier. In fact, he said he had the gun strapped on and he wasn't tall enough, so it just drug on the ground behind him. He eventually escaped, got to Vietnam, to a refugee camp, where he did hear about Jesus, accepted it for a time, but then, like Jesus' parable about the weeds and the tares, he left it go. I was able to show him where the Khmer Rouge, which devastated his family, wanted to kill all the educated people. And the only thing stopping that from happening again is his son and his son's generation is getting that education so they never let that happen again. And was able to get him to relent and say, yeah, he does need to finish his school. I told him, I'm like, I like you. Can I come back and talk to you again? And he said yes. So I went back the next month, and many months since then, and talking to him and sharing the gospel. A couple months before we came back, I was talking with him and sharing, and he was being very quiet, very contemplative, and I could see his eyes, the water coming in his eyes. And I just came up to him and I hugged him. And in Khmer, I told him, I love you and Jesus loves you. When was the last time somebody gave you a hug and told you they loved you? And that there's a God who loves you? He goes, I can't remember the last time somebody hugged me. We actually now have Khmer missionaries that have gone out to other countries. If we go to a lot of those closed countries, we stick out. They watch us constantly. The Khmer, they can go, and they are sharing the Lord now themselves.
All over Cambodia, not just in Battambang. In the past 2 years, there's been more salvations throughout the country in Battambang than they have experienced in the past 10 to 12 years. And it is amazing. We are seeing revival, restoration, redemption at levels that they had not experienced before in the history of YWAM being in Battambang or being in Cambodia. And that's really been, about 25 years. And so it is just an exciting opportunity, an exciting time to be in Cambodia right now.